Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Devo with Beau. Beaulette's my name. You can always check out the archives of these streams of Through the Bible at Beaulet. And that's the name right over there in the corner there, that French Canadian name, that really crazy French Canadian name. Ton of vowels, right? When you look at those French names, sometimes you look at them and you go, God, that's crazy. Anyway, welcome to the Morning Devo. We're going to be in Hebrews chapter 7 today, and it's so cloudy that I want to talk silent. I want to talk really quiet because it just feels like a cloudy day, right? It feels like kind of like chill day, get some hot coffee, get some coffee, whatever, and just relax. And this morning we get to go through another wonderful chapter of the Bible. Always blessed, no matter what's gone on. It's always such a joy to just open it up and just read through it and let it speak. I love the New Living Translation. To me, that is the translation that really speaks to me. It really helps break things down where you don't have to explain. Sometimes these other translations, even though they're, quote, modern translations, they're a little difficult for my brain anyway. Maybe it's a little easier for you, but not for me. And so I've had to wrestle with some of these other translations. But my great friend Carla that works at Wycliffe Bible Translation, has for 25 maybe plus years. Really loves the New Living Translation, has told me it's a very good translation. And boy, man, if there's any translation that just packs a punch as far as who the Messiah is, it's definitely this one. I mean, this one's been great. So I enjoy it. I enjoy especially for reading through the scriptures. I mean, for my studies, I'll definitely use, different versions, like the New King James or the King James Version or the American Standard or English Standard, these type of, translations that are maybe a little more literal to the actual sentence, structure. But she, Carla has given me a thumbs up, and that means a lot. She's done a lot of Bible translation. So, okay, so it says this is Hebrews 7. So here we go. Hey, thanks for joining me today. My name's Beau, if you don't know. So it's a nice, cool, chilly day, too. This Melchizedek was king of the city of Salem. So remember, this writer wants to get kind of into the nitty-gritty of the work of the Messiah, who the Messiah is, the intricacies of his work on our behalf. Why he goes to the cross, why he raises from the dead. What is the meaning of all of the Bible? What is all of these different the narrations of the Old Testament? What are they about? What are they pointing to? What are they trying, what is the real significance of it when it comes to the Messiah? Well, the writer of Hebrews is just getting into it, and he wants to more and more get into it. It's just, do I have ears to really hear and listen? So I'm not going to get into who Melchizedek is, because this guy's going to do it, and he's already introduced Melchizedek to us. So it says, Melchizedek was a king of the city of Salem, and also a priest of God Most High. So you have a king and a priest. And when Abraham was returning home after winning a great battle against the kings, Melchizedek met him and blessed him, as a priest would, right? And it says, then Abraham took a tenth of all he had captured in battle and gave it to Melchizedek. Melchizedek must have been a pretty cool guy. The name Melchizedek means king of justice, and king of Salem means king of peace. Salem is short for Jerusalem. And it says, there is no record of his father or mother or any of his ancestors, no beginning or end to his life. He remains a priest forever, resembling the Son of God. So it introduced our Messiah, that the Messiah, his role as Messiah, one of his roles would be a priest to us. The fulfillment of in a sense, the sacrifices in the book of Leviticus, but he would be a priest not according to the Levitical priesthood. He would be a priest along this guy's line, like this guy, in this kind of way. This guy kind of was a type of foreshadowment, if you will, of this priesthood of Jesus, the Messiah. So remember, the Messiah, when you say the term Messiah, you're talking about a prophet, you're talking about a priest, you're talking about a king, all that. And you're talking about a shepherd. You're talking about a lot of things when you use the term Messiah. And one of them, obviously, the main one, is when you say Messiah, the Messiah, capital T, capital M, we're talking about everlasting Father, Almighty God, Prince of Peace, the Son of God. God the Son. Yeah, you can't separate that. And the writer of Hebrews is making this point over and over. But he talks about this, the Messiah's priesthood coming from this line of Melchizedek. And he talks about Abraham and how Abraham met this guy Melchizedek after war and gave him a tenth of all the spoils. And it talks about that Melchizedek has no record of father or mother or any ancestors, no beginning or end to his life. He kind of has this type. There's some debates there. Let them debate away on, was Melchizedek Jesus? Was he not Jesus? That's not the purpose of this devotion, is to get into all the minutia of that. I think it's cool stuff to study for sure. But let's see what the direction is of the writer. Sometimes we miss the big picture when we get too focused. It says, "Consider then how great this Melchizedek was." Pretty great guy. "Even Abraham, the great patriarch of Israel, recognized this by giving him a tenth of what he had taken in battle. Now the law of Moses required that the priests, who are descendants of Levi," hence the term Leviticus, that's one of the books of the Torah, "must collect a tithe from the rest of the people of Israel." Okay, so he's talking now about, remember, he's doing a Bible study, and he's doing it on the Bible. We tend to think of Bible, and we think of John, and we think of Thessalonians, and our brains are a little weird like that. Actually, when we think of the Bible, we should think of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and we keep going. We keep on going, right? Joshua, Judges, we just go through it. The Bible starts in Genesis, the books. It doesn't start in, Matthew. And so he's doing a Bible study. And this is a person after the death, after the burial, after the resurrection, after the ascension of Jesus. This guy's doing a Bible study, and he's doing it in the Torah. He's doing it in the Bible. And he's saying, wow, check out, there's a priesthood in the Torah. It's the ancestors, the Levites. And he says they collect a tithe from the rest of the people of the nation of Israel, who are also descendants of Abraham. But Melchizedek, who is not a descendant of Levi, collected a tenth from Abraham. Interesting. So all of Israel is supposed to give a tenth to the priests. The priests are doing the work on behalf of the people to intercede for them through animal sacrifices and things like that. But Melchizedek is such a great guy, that's the point. He's such a great guy that Abraham gives him a tithe. He gives him a tenth. And he says, man, dude, you're so amazing. Here you go. And it says, and Melchizedek placed a blessing upon Abraham, the one who had already received the promises of God. Meaning Abraham received a promise from God. Through you, all the nations of the world, everybody will be blessed. Through you, through your seed, one seed. One of your offspring is going to be the big blessing. The Messiah is going to come through you, bro. Right? And it says, Abraham received that promise and then saw Melchizedek after a war and gave him a tenth of all the spoils. Melchizedek was that important of a person. And it says, and without question, the person who has the power to give a blessing is greater than the one who is blessed. Abraham knew something, and I guess this gets really lost, I think, in a lot of the Bible studies on Hebrews chapter 7, is that Abraham understood that there was a greater, and that even people on the planet have a greater role or a greater position than me. This is something that we today have really struggled with in our society. Obviously, where there's something in us that makes us think that we all are equal. And what we mean, what kind of we're trying to do is have everybody be like Melchizedek important. Everybody's Melchizedek. And so, there isn't the person who blesses and there isn't the person that receives. We all are the blessed, kind of thing. Which kind of makes everything weird. It doesn't work that way. Everybody can't be the person who is the greatest, have the greatest responsibility or the greatest role. I played baseball growing up a lot. And there's 9 players on the field in baseball. And they all play different positions. And they all are important. All those positions are really important. You can't say, hey, man, I don't need a first baseman. And you can't say, hey, I don't need a pitcher. And you can't say, I don't need a catcher. And you might be on the team, but you might be in the dugout, not playing at all. But you're on the team. But there is an importance that's in those players that are actually on the team, are playing on the field during a game. Like, do I have an importance on the team as a whole? Sure, yeah, but I'm just in the dugout chewing bubble gum. So even though I'm on the team, at the moment of the game, I don't have much importance in what the effect is going to be in the game. But the pitcher does. And the pitcher has a more important position than the right fielder. Because the pitcher is touching the ball and throwing the ball every time. He has to throw a pitch in order for things to be in play. The catcher has an important place. He's got to catch the ball every time the pitcher throws it. And so you can see that there's different positions that we all play, but not every position is equal. Meaning you can play baseball without a right fielder. You can. But you can't play baseball without a pitcher and a catcher. It ain't going to work. You need the pitcher and the catcher. Is it important to have a right fielder? Yes. Do they have a role? Yes. Is it important? Absolutely. But you see that there is a higher responsibility of those that are, in a sense, touching the ball more. And in our world, we all have different positions and places. And I would imagine that the president of a country is someone to respect because of their responsibility that's involved. They have a lot of things that they have to deal with. They're touching. The ball is in their hands a lot. And what they do and the decisions that are made by him and his government have an effect on a multitude of people. So not everybody is that equal, if that makes sense. And Abraham had a beautiful understanding. He didn't go, oh, well, Melchizedek, I'm Abraham, dude. Like, I shouldn't bless you, or I shouldn't be blessed by you. I should bless you because, I'm just as good as you because we're equal, because we're human beings. Abraham saw that there was something special about the position that Melchizedek held. And therefore, he pays him. He gives him, in a sense, homage. He says, man, I need to, give you, respect and honor. The New Testament even backs this up by saying, honor the king. Honor those that are rulers over you. They have a responsibility, it says, to watch out for us. It says even in the church that I am to be honoring those that lead, that spiritually are leading, that I have to learn how to honor them in a proper way. It doesn't mean I don't disagree. It doesn't mean I don't talk to him about areas that I might disagree with him on. But I respect the position that they have and the decisions that they have to make and the difficulty that's a part of that. Not everybody is making those decisions. Someone's got to make a decision in a business. It's not everybody that makes the decision. Even in a quote democracy, right? Not everybody's getting their way. So Abraham had something in him that was very cool that I want. And that I want ability to recognize when someone's greater. And not just think that I'm greater. But to consider other people greater than me. Now the Messiah is the greatest, God in human flesh, and yet he humbled himself and became a servant to me, giving me an example that even though he is the greatest, that he is the servant of all. And that the position of the Christian is one that we use our even exalted positions as places of service. So the greatest becomes the one who is the minister to all. Not the one who is getting, but the one who is giving. That's how the Messiah has taught us. But by golly, when Jesus was worshiped, people understood when they bowed to Jesus, they understood that he was the greater. And Jesus never stopped them and said, you shouldn't worship me. He just said, don't go tell anybody who I am. There was a reason for that. He had a time to be revealed, a time for the public to worship, and it wasn't time yet. But boy, when people worshiped him, they knew their place. And that's something that we understand in families, and this is very true in just normal human behavior and even in animal behavior, that we understand that there is, in a sense, a pecking order. And you might hate it, and you might think, hey, that's not social justice, or that's not equity, or that's not equality, but you're getting things mixed up. The animals are equal, but there is roles that they play. And we do too, and Abraham saw that. I think that's very cool, and I really want that in my life. It says, the priests who collect tithes are men who die. The Levites, right? So Melchizedek is greater than they are because we are told that he lives on. In addition, we might even say that these Levites, the ones who collect the tithe, paid a tithe to Melchizedek when their ancestor Abraham paid a tithe to him. For although Levi wasn't born yet, the seed from which he came was in Abraham's body when Melchizedek collected the tithe from him. So the writer is really getting deep, and he just says, hey, man, Abraham had kids, and through his kids came this guy, Levi, to which became the Levitical priesthood, the book of Leviticus, this whole priesthood system in Israel. Well, when Abraham paid a tithe to Melchizedek, Melchizedek was so great. In a sense, all those Levites were in Abraham, not yet born yet, but in a sense, in his loins, So in a sense, he's saying all of the Levitical priesthood paid a tithe to Melchizedek. The whole point, of course, is that Melchizedek is that great. That's what it's pointing to, is the greatness of Melchizedek in his priesthood, his service. So it says, so if the priesthood of Levi, on which the law was based, would have achieved the perfection God intended, why did God need to establish a different priesthood with a priest in order of Melchizedek instead of the order of Levi and Aaron? He's already brought up these passages in the Hebrew Bible that are much later than the book of Genesis that mention Levi or Melchizedek. So, like in the Psalms, he brought up a passage that mentioned this person, Melchizedek, who's mentioned in Genesis with Abraham. And he says, hey, there's a priesthood, and it's going to be in the order of this guy Melchizedek. And you could see that God had something going on. God had this really cool plan that the Levitical priesthood was to actually bow to the greater priesthood of the anointed king and priest and prophet. Whoa! And that's who the Messiah would be. Again, the topic of the Bible is the Messiah, who the Messiah is going to be. And so all the Jews probably reading this are like, whoa, this is a killer Bible study, this is amazing. And that's what Hebrews 7 is. It's like a guy doing an amazing Bible study for us on the Messiah. And it says, and if the priesthood is changed, it says, so if the priesthood of Levi on which the law was based could have achieved the perfection God intended, then why did God need to establish a different priesthood with a priest in order of Melchizedek instead of the order of Levi and Aaron? Okay, I read that. Now, if the priesthood is changed, the law must also be changed to permit it. For the priest we are talking about belongs to a different tribe, whose members have never served at the altar of priest. He's not a Levite. What I mean is, our Lord came from the tribe of Judah, and Moses never mentioned priest coming from that tribe. Okay, so there is a change in the priesthood that's different from the Levitical priesthood to which the Messiah is a part of. The Messiah, he says, he finds a technicality here, that the Messiah is from the tribe of Judah, which isn't a priestly tribe in Israel. It's actually the kingly tribe. And so it says, this change, the Messiah being from Judah, has been made very clear since a different priest who is like Melchizedek has appeared. It makes sense, he says, because Melchizedek was from a different priesthood. And so he says, Jesus became a priest not by meeting the physical requirements of belonging to the tribe of Levi, but by the power of a life that cannot be destroyed. And the psalmist pointed this out when he prophesied, you are a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. So in the Psalms, it talks about the Messiah being a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. It's a greater priesthood. Why? Because it's one where the priest is perfect. I mean, is that pretty cool? So it's a priesthood where the priest doesn't have to offer sacrifices for themselves. It's one where the priest is righteous, and he demonstrates his righteousness through a life, the power of a life that cannot be destroyed. A priesthood that is everlasting to everlasting. An eternal priesthood. Something that is not bound by death at all. Jesus' priesthood is better. Jesus is better. He's better than Moses. He's better than the priesthood, the Levitical priesthood. He's just better, man. Jesus is just better. The Messiah is greater. He's better. And that's what he's getting at. Yes, the old requirements about the priesthood was set aside because it was weak and useless. The law never made anything perfect, but now we have confidence and a better hope through which we draw near to God. Hey, are you trying to draw near to God by the law or by Jesus? Through the law, through all your obedience to something, through your searching, through your ceremonies, through all your things, through all your gyrations, through all your killer deep dives into mystic worlds of beyond and all the Nephilim and the blood moons and the great things here and the great things there and the Pluto and the Saturn and, are you going those directions and the angelic beings in the book of Enoch and, you're going down the road. The writer of Hebrews is saying, no, bro, don't go that direction. It doesn't make anything perfect. All that. He says, we have confidence in a better hope through which we draw near to God. How do we draw near to God? Through the priesthood of Jesus. Learning about Jesus. This new system was established with a solemn oath. This new system came with an oath. Aaron's descendants became priests without such an oath. But there was an oath regarding Jesus. For God said to him, "The Lord has taken an oath and will not break his vow. You are a priest forever." So when it says in the Bible, in the Hebrew Bible, that you are a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek, the Lord is taking an oath. I swear. By who? Me. That this priesthood is the best one. It is the eternal one. It is the perfect one. So if you got the perfect priesthood, then why do you need to go to another? Good question, right? If I already have the perfect priest and the priest is there to intercede for me, why do I need to go to another person? What is the deal? Yeah, you got your dogma. Yeah, you got your history. Yeah, you got your tradition. I'm just saying that the writer of Hebrews, I'm just some kid that grew up in Southern California reading the book of Hebrews. But it makes it pretty clear that this is the perfect. So if this is the perfect, then anyone you're going to, is what? Less than perfect. How do we draw near to God? Isn't that the greatest? Wouldn't that be the greater, drawing near to God? Isn't that what we would want to do? Isn't that the problem with the world? That the world is separated from God. I don't see God outside. I see death and despair and illnesses and destruction and all kinds of things, that everything's decaying. I see a separation. So if there's a way to be draw near to God, that would be the perfect. That would be the way. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through Messiah. And so, you could see that on this planet, we are going crazy. We are all choosing so much the less than going to the greater, the perfect. And the writer is saying to his people, what are you guys doing? You're missing it. You're going backwards, man. You put the car in reverse, And it says, because of this oath, Jesus is the one who guarantees this better covenant with God. It's a better covenant, man. It's with God. Go for it. There were many priests under the old system, for death prevented them from remaining in office. But because Jesus lives forever, his priesthood lasts forever. Makes sense. The Levitical priesthood, the high priest would die, and the next one would come on the scene. He would die, and the next one would come on the scene. It doesn't happen that way with Jesus. He's the Messiah. He lives forever. Therefore, he is able once and forever to save those who come to God through him. He lives forever to intercede with God on their behalf. What a beautiful passage. Jesus today lives to intercede for us. He is able once and forever to save those who come to God through him. We need a priesthood. There's no doubt we need a priesthood. Why do people go to other people? Because they're trying to find a remedy to draw near to the deity. They do it in many different fashions and ways. But it's not a perfect priesthood. It's not a perfect mediator that we're going to. We're going to human beings. When you go to counseling, biblical counseling, you're going to something lesser. You're not going to the greater. Yeah, it might help you. It might give you some understanding to the Bible and how God relates to you. But this is telling us that Jesus' mediation between you and God is the greater. It says he is able once and forever to save those who come to God through him. He's able to save your soul as you draw near to him, for he lives forever to intercede with God on our behalf. He intercedes before the Father for you and me. He is the one who's continuing to intercede for you and mediate for you on behalf of a Father who is righteous and holy, a God who judges unrighteousness. And by golly, this world deserves to be judged. There's no doubt about that. And it says, For he is the kind of high priest we need because he is holy and blameless. Beautiful. Makes sense. He's perfect. Unstained by sin, he has been set apart from sinners and has been given the highest place of honor in heaven. Jesus had no sin. The writer keeps saying that. No sin. None. Zero. Zippo. Unlike those other high priests, he does not need to offer sacrifices every day. They did this for their own sins first and then for the sins of the people. Every day in the book of Israel, right? Or in the world of Israel, in the ancient Israel world, you smell smoke. You woke up, you smell smoke. You go to bed, you smell smoke. Why? Because sacrifices were being made day in, day out. That's all you could think about throughout your day. You're working, you smell smoke. Man, I'm a sinner. You go to bed, I smell smoke, I'm a sinner. It's just constant. And it says, but after, it says, the law-appointed high priest who were limited by human weaknesses. It says, but Jesus did this once for all when he offered himself as the sacrifice for the people's sins. A really important passage, right? That the priesthood, the Levitical priesthood, they offered sins for their own selves and then for the sins of the people. But Jesus did this once and for all when he offered himself as a sacrifice for the people's sins. Not for his own sins, but for the people's sins. He's a perfect priest, not because he doesn't need to sacrifice for his own sins. He is able to fully give everything, a righteousness in his service for us, which we need. And it says, the law appointed high priests who were limited by human weaknesses. The law appointed that, the book of Moses. But after the law was given, God appointed his son with an oath, and his son has been made perfect high priest forever. Meaning God in the book of Psalms says, I'm going to swear an oath. He will be a priest in the order of Melchizedek. A perfect priesthood. Jesus is greater. Jesus is better. His sacrifice is better. His interceding is better. He's just the better, man. He's better in every way. He intercedes better. He's the better counselor. He's the better atonement. And so you could see how the writer is just trying to get us to kind of focus on Jesus. It kind of reminds me of, those kids in kindergarten where you ask them a question about spiritual matters, and they always say, Jesus, right? They shout Jesus. And it truly is, Jesus is better, holy and blameless. What does a passage like this do to me this morning? It makes me just be in awe of a God who has it all figured out, who knows that I need a mediator, that I need someone to intercede for me. And it gives me incredible peace in my heart to know that Jesus doesn't just die for me. He doesn't just live a righteous life and give me that righteous life and conquer death for me. And he doesn't just go into heaven with a body wanting to associate with me as a human being. But he also, to this day, my time here, he is praying for me. He is interceding. And man, I am on his mind right now. Why would you go to another God? Why would you go find another deity? Man, the greater is already here, the true and living God. We are visited. Unbelievable. Wow. What a great chapter. So that's chapter 7 of the book of Hebrews. Very cool, very powerful. Today, whatever you got going on, you have a God who intercedes for you. He doesn't just die for you. He doesn't just, call you a child of God, but he literally, man, is praying for you right now and loves you and cares for you and cares for me, and he knows my flaws and he knows my stuff, and he just intercedes, man, praying for me. And we should follow suit to be people that intercede for other people. We should follow our high priest's example. Man, that's cool. Okay, we'll talk to you guys later, okay? Bye-bye.